Hey there, film fans. I'm Jeff.
I'm Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies, both new and old, with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. And to avoid lazy negativity, we're making this a drinking game. So anytime we say anything negative at all about any of these films, about each other, about how Dave Citizen is delayed because he got caught playing Hump the Hostess, we're going to hear this sound. That sound means we're taking a drink, and we hope you drink along with us.
So pour yourselves a glass. We're going to talk about a film that has everything: lying, manipulation, drink driving, and every fucking word in the English language.
Cheers, guys.
Ooh, every fucking word.
All right, guys, that's right. Our featured conversation is, of course, going to be Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, Mike Nichols' first film, the year before he won an Oscar for The Graduate. Changed the history of cinema forever. Random year generator spun 1966. Our featured conversation, we're going to set up the context, tell you what was going on in the world in 1966, tell you what other films came out in 1966. Again, 1 year before many critics, many smart people say cinema was changed forever. Bonnie and Clyde, and all the other amazing films that came out the next year, along with The Graduate. We also have a lot of mini reviews. So all three of us have seen Wicked by now. 2 of us have seen Gladiator II. And John, you went with the award sweep. You've got a bunch coming up. So you're going to rapid fire those first. But people, if you need to get your Wicked or your Gladiator II mini review takes from us, check the show notes so you can scoot ahead. We don't want you to get bogged down by listening to us drink and catch up here at the beginning.
Listen to
and
it
then
all.
Virginia Woolf. Yeah, again, that'll be our feature conversation towards the end of the episode. But first, let's get John to shout out our sponsors, and then we can get on with this madness.
Let's do it. We have a beer sponsor. His name is Carlos Barroso. You can find his link in the show notes. The handle is cbarroso.beer on the old Instagram. You can give him a follow. He's always got some fun beer making stuff going on. We also have a music artist in residence that we like to call Dasein. Dasein. You can find Dasein's music available on all the usual music platforms. Once again, the link is in our show notes and our link tree. If you want to follow, go like, love, subscribe, stream, purchase, all the things. They're so good. Totally worth it. Yeah, that's it.
All right. We also have a YouTube. I forgot my fucking light. So my face looks shadowy as fuck. But Dave goes ahead and edits this episode. That's what he does for a living. That's why it sounds so goddamn good. So everybody shout Dave out for that. Dave, you got any news or anything you want to get off your chest here? No gripe or anything, but anything you want to say before we get into our barrage of mini reviews?
No, I think we should get into it.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Dave, I got some Sydney news as part of 1966
Oh, really?
that came up.
Okay.
That's pretty funny. It was the price of housing in Sydney in 1966 versus today.
About $350.
$350? I think the average home in Sydney now is over $1 million, but in
Goddamn Loch Ness monster.
1966, I believe it was about $40,000 because I believe it was still a prison. I can't remember. All right.
Spanish, my fucking country.
So John,
just years away from nuclear threat.
that was good. Okay, that's a throwback to previous episode. So
I'm not going to storm off this time.
So John has seen Wicked. He got to see an advanced screening, which was good. But then Dave and I got to see it this weekend, right? So we're recording this right after Wicked and Gladiator just came out, at least here in the United States. Gladiator's been out for 2 weeks. John, you got some mini reviews. You said you really want to You said you really want to rapid fire them. You want to just?
I will. So the 2 that I'll talk about very quickly are, I'll start with the best news first. Anora is deserved of its amazing marketing that I feel like is going on all the time right now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about you guys, but I kept seeing trailers and hearing about it. It's so good. I loved it. Might be my favorite movie of the year. It's so funny. I can't say that enough. I was not expecting that from the trailer. It is one of the funniest movies I've seen in a very long time. It's also more than funny. Go see it. I think everybody's going to really enjoy it.
Anora.
And then I also saw Juror number 2, which is also worth seeing. There is absolutely some, as Jeff calls it, maybe the grandpa effect. There's some maybe predictable and cliche elements to the dialogue, which I think I struggled with the most. But Nicholas Hoult is great. It's a story about ambiguous ethical dilemmas, which are always fun. Anyone who hasn't
Yeah.
seen a trailer, and I'm trying to get people in the theater to see that because I don't know if anybody else heard, but Warner Brothers didn't really increase the marketing campaign after it started getting some good response from critics. So
What?
I feel like nobody's talking about it or seeing it. But if you like that kind of movie, I think you would enjoy going to see it.
What kind of movie is
So, yeah.
that? Just
Dude,
things with
90%
ambiguous
of Warner
morals?
Brothers-
A small adult ethical crime
Mm.
legal drama. You know, if you're
Oh.
into that kind of space, if anyone who doesn't know the story, it's about a guy in the trailer who realizes when he's chosen for jury selection that he might actually be the person they're looking for.
That's cool.
Okay.
And that's in
That's
the
so
exposition.
cool.
So it's like Trap at a courtroom.
Yes.
So-
And he's kind of left to, it's kind of like, this is my little tiny tag for it. It's kind of like if 12 Angry Men was the person who committed the crime.
Wow. Wasn't he also German too? I can't remember which juror it was.
Yeah, he may have been. Anyway,
Henry Fonda? Wait.
Yeah.
So for all the
So-
really high people out there that think that all the sirens and everybody, they're all looking for them, like they're the center of the universe in their, mother's basement or something. In this case, it's true.
And I promise I'm not giving anything away. It's in the trailer. It's kind of in the exposition. You're kind of
I love
like,
it.
what's going to happen? And anyway, it ends up being a lot about the deliberation after the fact.
Sweet.
So anyway, those are my two.
Yeah,
Go see Anora. Go
Anora's
see
top of my
Anora.
list.
Holy fuck,
Anora's top of my
Anora. Oh
list.
my God, dude. So
Holy
good.
fucking Nora.
All right. Yeah.
All right. So should we do Wicked last then, Dave? Because
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to
All
hear
right,
what you guys have. Yeah.
Gladiator II, I saw this Thursday night, so I got to see like a raucous crowd that was all like advanced and hype. I went by myself, so I got to snag like a single seat because it was sold the fuck out. People were hyped for Gladiator. It wasn't quite the full Barbenheimer, but in the cities especially, I feel like both of these movies did really well.
Yeah.
How
There were
what do you
people
think,
doing
John?
Glicked.
I did it. I'm mad you guys made me watch a third movie this week, to be honest with you. All right, John, what'd you think?
You want me to hit it first? Okay. It's exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's a high energy sequel to a movie that you already know. And I don't think that I liked it and I had fun, but I just didn't think it was going to live up to the first one. And I guess I would still say that if I'm being honest, but I still had fun. I don't feel like there's as much. I love Denzel. I mean, there's so many great. The performances are strong. No criticism of the performances, but just the nature of how he created the storytelling. It wasn't as dynamic as the first one. When I say an action movie, I mean even the talking scenes felt like action movies, whereas Gladiator 1 felt more like a historical drama with action. This feels like an action movie.
The first one seemed
And,
very
it
real.
was
That
fun.
seemed like 100% real. Like I feel like they're really telling
Yeah.
the two story, which is fun.
I think they used a little too much CGI in this one.
Oh
And
yeah,
I love,
use real animals. We don't need fake animals. Real animals are
fucking
fine.
weird. It was weird.
Well, that's
I love Henry.
that's
how
why
do you say
the
his name?
rhino fight was cut from the first one because they couldn't do it on screen.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's why they did it in
And I
this
don't know
one. And
if they
everybody's sitting there and I was like, man, these rhinos are they woolly mammoths? They're fucking brutal.
Monkeys, rhinos,
Those
sharks.
monkeys
Oh my,
were fucked
dude!
up. The
What
sharks,
the fuck?
man.
That was that was weird.
The naval battle
Uh,
things were apparently real, but don't go overboard, guys.
It was too much. There's
Also,
a lot of that. Which
During the
again, you
naval
put your-
battle. Sorry, go ahead.
go.
You
I
finish
was
up.
just
You were
gonna
about
say
to finish your
you
thought.
put you put that mindset on and you kind of just go and you know what it is and you're still gonna have fun. Get your popcorn, enjoy yourself. My other critique that I will say genuinely did confuse me and kind of bother me, and this you can buzz me for this, and I would say this to Ridley Scott's face. I think Henry Gregson, how do you say it? Gregson Williams, those two brothers, the Williams brothers. It's Williams, right? Is that his last name? The composer? They both write tons and tons of
the
stuff.
Williams. Yeah, for sure.
He is wonderful, and he's done a lot of amazing work. But this is one of those cases where there's an iconic score with iconic themes from a very well-known composer, Hans Zimmer. And I just don't know why they didn't bring him back, because they did a bunch of like knockoff versions of the themes, and it really distracted me. I found it extremely distracting. It was like just the same way that like there's a little bit of that in the new Star Wars, where there's just a nod to some of the old John Williams themes, and you just want him to just do the fucking theme. It's just not quite the same. The chord progression's a little off. Maybe the way they move the melody is just like one note off, so they don't resolve the same way. And it just immediately took me out of the movie. I know I think about that stuff maybe differently than most people, but I think a lot of people fucking love the Gladiator score, and I bet I'm not alone.
I mean, I
still had fun.
I come from the generation where they used to release those performed by albums where you'd get like 16 songs and then performed, but not by the artists that performed them. There were some other cheap studio musician guys that they could do. So the album was only like $15.
Yeah.
And you're like, it was never good enough. It was never the same.
I agree with John. I watched Gladiator like a year ago. I was also on a plane recently with Paul Mescal. I think I brought that up on the show. We went to New Orleans from LaGuardia. He flies out of LaGuardia, Paul Mescal, which is great. He flew first class. He actually kind of looked like an Urban Outfitters hipster dude. Like, not like somebody. I actually was like, have they not filmed Gladiator yet? Because he didn't look that big. He looked like a normal dude. But he was wearing sunglasses inside an airport. And it's like, Paul, if you want to hide, you don't wear sunglasses inside the airport because that makes you look more obvious. But very few people recognize him, and it's fine. Anyway,
His eyes are so distracting, dude.
Yeah, I agree with John. I agree with John entirely. I think ultimately what they probably should have done, and I guess the bones were very similar. But one thing the first movie also did is just a weird, where you could kind of see like their version of Valhalla and him and his wife and this like eternal love story. I feel like they had a good touch on the first one. Like it wasn't a love story, but that did anchor him in a way that's hard to do because every fucking movie's a love story. And I feel like with this one, you had that with Paul, but it was not the same. And so therefore we didn't really know Paul, which I guess is kind of the point, because then with Denzel's character, we don't really know him and stuff. But you can't, I don't think anybody who made the film really expects us to leave having the same feeling about the main character that we did with the first one. Because I feel like I knew him eternally after the first one. And this one, there was no way that we were going to know that. Having said that, I agree 100%. It was really fun.
You said so eternally, right? Not internally.
I think it's so fun, and also it's silly. If we allow it, it's so fucking dumb and silly that, like, come on. His son is also a gladiator. Like, it's ridiculous, right? And so, like, fine, make some fake animals.
You're talking about an industry that has, how can the same thing happen to the same guy twice?
I know. Yes, that's exactly what happened. It is totally Die Hard 2 in this. And I think also I think the rewatch is going to be really fun. You can't go to a Major League Baseball game now without a net, because they want to protect the people in the 18th row of what they were shooting arrows in the naval sequence. I was like, what? They're going to kill everybody in the Coliseum. Like they just don't give a fuck. Like they did ground it. I'm not saying it wasn't grounded. Denzel's performance was great. Of course, he was amazing. Everybody's talking about it. I actually really like Paul Mescal's performance. I wish they gave him a little bit more backstory without sinking the movie, which is hard. I don't know if I bought the turn, which is not his fault. I don't want to give anything away, but basically all of a sudden he turned.
That's not their fault at all. They just cut it out
Paul's
like 5
fault.
scenes.
Out of nowhere, he was like, I understand now.
Already changed.
So we're not even mentioning Paul Mescal, who has the exact same job as Russell Crowe's character did in the first. He was the main general of the Roman Legion army. He's literally Maximus's job. And we don't even mention him in the reviews, so they kind of underused him. But really, honest to God, it's just fucking fun. So don't just
not
go
Paul
out there to have fun.
You're not talking about Paul Mescal.
Sorry. Pedro Pascal.
Pedro Pascal.
Paul Mescal, Pedro Pascal. Say that 5 times fast. My apologies.
You know what my favorite part about this movie, and then we'll move on to Wicked, I swear, because I want to hear your thoughts. I love that every movie he releases, Ridley Scott's like, that's the best movie I've ever made. He is so enthusiastic about his work and whatever he gets to do next. He's such a fan. He's such a salesman. And it makes me happy to be like, this guy had fucking a blast making this movie.
It was fun. It was really fucking fun.
Enjoy watching it.
I mean, can you imagine if he sat down and went, I could have done better.
Yeah, the 2 emperors were fun. I love the thing. The ailment that has affected my brother's loins has affected his mind, and they just like throw that into the movie. They were both
that
great,
dude from Stranger Things,
but especially
roundabout way of calling him a dickhead.
Joseph Quince.
I
believe it's also like
good.
I also believe it's his syphilis is going to tank Rome. But yes, he was a dickhead is also another interpretation of that. But yeah, it was. I mean, it was really fun. And actually, to be honest, I even said this to Angela on like the next day. I was like, I actually thought about this movie today more than I thought, because on Thursday night I went to bed and I was like, I don't know if I'll ever think about this movie again. But Friday morning I was I was still thinking about it. And I really do think Paul did an amazing job. And it's a bummer that people are just like, Denzel. Yeah, but Paul was great. When he said, like, you have a rage inside of you, and then they cut to him, he was doing nothing. And I was like, yes, he does. Fuck yes, Paul. Own it. Great.
It's really
Wicked? Wicked.
good. Oh, yeah. So hit me, you guys. I told you what I thought
John,
about it.
John, highlight of your review. Let's do a quick highlight in case our guests haven't listened.
I think I think he did a wonderful job adapting it. There were some augmentations in script and music that for me worked. Maybe there were a couple moments in the middle where you kind of feel the length of it a little bit, but generally speaking, I was very, very moved by this. My audience had a fantastic fucking time. I really wish he would have released it before the election. Maybe you guys know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
But like, honestly, we saw it like 2 or 3 nights after the election results, and we were like in tears, just so
Right.
moved by these people going against that kind of character. These 2 women working together to try to overcome something. I don't know. I just feel like this is a movie of its time that will
Yeah.
hopefully outlive its time. And I don't know, you guys, I really loved it. I mean, it's hard not to like that music, and I thought those women did an incredible job, and I thought John Chu, I think this is his best musical, and I think he's probably made,
sure.
I think you
Better
could
than
say
Step
he's
Up
made
3, you
3 or
think?
4 now. Step Up 3,
In the
Heights. He's made a really famous short film at USC that got him like into the business that was a musical as well. Anyway, what did you guys think? Tell me.
Dave, you just saw this. You saw it yesterday.
Yeah,
or
I
Sunday.
saw,
You
well,
saw it
actually,
more
we
recently.
saw Swept Away on Sunday, and then went and
Right.
saw this yesterday.
And
Dude, I have a Letterboxd, right? So I've got the movies that I've watched that have nothing to do with the podcast that I watch by choice, like new movies, not rewatches. And it's in order of like grading, and through 1 to I think 26, I think I'm up to. And Deadpool and Wolverine has been sitting soundly on that since it came out, and Wicked is now
Sure.
sitting on top of it.
what? Wicked has
number 1,
surpassed
right?
Deadpool and
Wicked
Wolverine.
is my
Wow.
number 1 film of the year. That thing was fucking phenomenal, and I love Popular. It's one of like my favorite song on the show. And they got to that, and I'm bopping along, that sort of thing. But when they got to that situation, they're standing at the top of the tower, and I heard that riff at the start, just for the start of Defying Gravity, fucking hair stood up. Yeah.
Yeah.
My hair stood up, and like my eyes teared up, and I was like, shit. Like, yeah, it was
Yeah.
so
Did you cry?
good. I didn't cry.
I had a
You
very
cry?
emotional response to this movie.
But
Jeff?
I was grinning with joy for the entire
Good.
last 15 minutes.
It's great.
I told you before you talked to, because I might be setting you up for better or for worse here. I'm really hoping that the Broadway community isn't snooty about it and hates it for some
No, they
stupid
love it.
fucking reason.
Absolutely. They love
Okay.
it. They love it.
Okay.
Love it.
Because sometimes they hate musicals that are turned, and this one's so famous.
I saw
No,
the
it's-
dance.
it's going
I
really
saw the
well.
group from Wicked, the stage show today, released a TikTok where they're doing the Glinda routine as she walks down with everyone dancing behind her.
Yeah.
The cast is doing it. Yeah.
Musical theater is very happy for this movie, for sure. Guys, it's so obviously a great movie. It really is. I'm going to die on the ledge, guys. I was disappointed. I was a little bummed by the movie. I know. And it's so annoying because I really don't want to be.
With what? What were you disappointed with?
I felt the length. I thought the pacing of the dialogue was too slow.
Dude,
And I thought it wasn't quirky enough. It wasn't fun enough. And my audience didn't laugh a single time. And this is a musical comedy. So that means that the director didn't set
They
up
didn't
enough.
laugh a single time?
Wow.
Nope, a couple chuckles. I would say the movie.
My audience laughed for sure.
I would say
Dude,
I would say the movie.
My audience was clapping like they were in the theater after every number.
None was it. So I accept that. I'm obviously going to rewatch it again. So maybe it'll change. I don't want to be hard on it because it's obviously a great movie. I thought it was like a cute, charming movie, but it didn't do to me what it did to everybody else. I think he was throwing moments away. You mentioned Defying Gravity. When she says "it's me," it's off screen. I didn't even get to see her say that. I didn't get to see her take a breath and go, "Oh my God, I'm flying. It's me." He literally did it off screen. She was like in the clouds somewhere away while she says, "It's me." And then the final riff, she's in the clouds going away, which I know that he made his choice and he made his decision. But there were a lot of times where I, as the audience, was like trying to be a part of that. And they spent so much time on close-ups with them, so much time. And they did the world pretty well. But I feel like it was just too intimate and too sweet, and it lost all of its quirk. It lost a lot of its fun. It lost a lot of the characters. Bowen Yang said he was a Bowen Yang said he was a publicist for Glinda. Fuck no. I feel like Glinda didn't even talk to anybody. I feel like Glinda didn't have a single conversation with anybody in this movie outside of Fierro and and Elphaba and Guo and Yang, and that's kind of a bummer. I was expecting like a Regina. Anyway, I don't want to be too hard on it 'cause it's obviously a great movie, but I feel like they just sacrificed a lot of quirk to be intimate and story driven and character driven, and I didn't have as much fun as I could have. I wish it was more fun. That's it. The two big musical numbers
So
were
I'm going to share.
Dancing
I'm going to
Through
share.
Life and One Sweet Day were One Short Day, and I wish that the rest of the movie lived up to that. Sorry, guys.
I had a feeling you weren't going to like it. I
liked it. I didn't
I
love
will
it.
I have a feeling
share.
you're dead
Jeff,
inside.
Jeff hates Wicked.
No, I
will,
don't. I don't.
I'll share this story because I think it addresses maybe a little bit of what you're talking about. And I thought it worked for the better because I did not miss the quirk at all. I don't, I don't, unless musical theater is satirizing itself, that's my least favorite part about music theater. The quirky, aren't we having funness? And I think when he said, this is what he said. This is just what John Chu said. It might not be true, but he said, we did not intend on making it in that kind of tone. And then Cynthia Erivo came in an audition pretty late in the game. And we were talking in these conversations with her, something she said from the top that kind of completely changed the way we were thinking about approaching it was, she said, I'm not going to be the joke the way that they play it on Broadway. I'm not going to be, it's not funny that I feel this way. And for better or for worse, he got really excited about that. And he was like, oh, you're totally right. This isn't funny. This is how she goes through life. There's an irony to it, maybe, but she is not playing into the, isn't this funny that you guys are being so mean to me, that I'm so crazy and green, the way they play it with a lot of that kind of camp on Broadway.
That's fine.
And
I buy that. It's great. Popular wasn't funny for me. And that's not her being the joke. That's the joke is Glinda, the most popular girl in school, is dressing her up with the red ruby slippers and stuff. And I didn't laugh. And also when she finally comes and she goes, you're green? And she goes, I am. They basically whispered it. Like, can you imagine if Harry and Draco Malfoy, when all the kids were watching them have their little Expelliarmus off in the second movie, like were whispering to each other? No, you have to talk to each other. They weren't speaking to each other. If I were in the crowd, I would have been like, what are they saying? I lost the world because they were being so intimate in moments that weren't. And that's not whether or not she's the joke or not. That's just the circumstance. People are watching. People are waiting to hear what they have to say. And they were not playing to the crowd. They were not upping their stakes. It was very intimate and very internal and introverted. And I feel like musicals just have to live extroverted. And I think they could have done that without her being the butt of the joke. That's what I think.
You
I
heard it
can't
here
wait to watch
first.
it again.
Jeff hates Wicked and eats puppies.
Fuck! I didn't mean to go off. I was ready to not go off. I was ready to go off.
I knew you were going to have an issue with it. And I would bet
I don't
my
have an
fucking life
issue
that
with
you're
it.
not the only person in the music theater world that has an issue with it. Just because there's such
most
a
people were happy with
hardcore
it.
following. Have you guys heard about this shit? All the fucking singing that's happening in theaters?
Is that real or is that I feel like that's been planted.
AMC has signs.
Yeah, people are getting upset about it, and they're going to actually have some sing-along screening so that people will shut the fuck up and actually just let
Nobody sang in my screening. Everyone sat there and behaved. They cheered, they laughed, they clapped, but yeah, nobody sang.
What happened to my
That's funny.
screening? Why didn't anybody fucking talk? Why didn't everybody laugh at my screening?
I don't know.
Nobody
I feel
laughed.
like-
I swear on my life, not once did people laugh.
Crash on the
Maybe
way to
some
the
chuckles.
screening for everyone or something.
Yeah, inside my theater.
That's fine.
I wish.
I
I am
do-
happy.
I
I
will-
actually wish it would make more money, but Moana 2 is coming out next week, so I feel like it's going to eat into their box office a little bit. But anyway, I hope it makes a lot of money. And I can't wait for
I'm not saying
Good's awesome.
I'm not saying it's my favorite movie of the year. I think I've already told you which one I think is my favorite of the year, but I think Wicked's going to win Best Picture this year.
I don't, but I think
you're
it's going to have a good campaign. I think they'll be nominated, and I think it'll be great. And I can't wait to rewatch it. I'm going to rewatch it. I can't wait.
Sure you do. All
Yeah,
right. What are we?
I can't wait.
What are we?
I can't wait.
Anyway.
Also, Michelle Yeoh, just go full Jafar or not. If she was so obviously the villain, and they took all the quirk away and gave it to that other woman. Okay, you're stoic. You're doing that thing. You're obviously the villain. Just go full Jafar. Like, I don't know. Like, it was a weird choice for me. Anyway, because that's the villain of the movie, not the wizard. It's her, and it was so straight and so obvious, and it was go quirk. I don't know. Fuck it. Whatever. Okay. I apparently did have gripes with this movie, and I can't wait to rewatch it. I'm sorry. But it's weird. They split
No,
that
it's good.
character in
It's
half,
good.
and they gave all the quirky stuff to the other woman. And I don't just need quirk, but Michelle Yeoh, it was too obvious that it was too obvious she wasn't on Glinda's side. That's all I'll say.
It was certainly fucking obvious. It's funny you mentioned Hogwarts Because
Sorry,
I could see a generation growing up with these two movies. There will be a second one, obviously. And it does have that kind of like otherworldly castle school,
The second half
that
should
whole
have this
thing.
tone, 100%. I wish they did Harry Potter and let the movies have different tones. The second half should have this exact same tone, and I can't
What
wait
if
for
the
good.
second one is hilarious and it's got
Yeah.
super fast?
They've
Yeah, so that
listened.
Nabak, whatever that fucking...
All right, Jeff didn't like it. We've got to change everything that we.
No, they're
we
going to say
thought.
I'm the
We're gonna
only
make-
one. They're going to make an effigy of me.
We're gonna make it quirky as fuck.
They're going to hang me up in their locker like basketball players would. No, the second one should have this tone. No way should there be any quirk in the second one.
I think it's. I'm excited. I still think a lot of people are loving this movie. I think everyone's gonna.
Do you remember when I saw Glass Onion and I said my theater was giving standing ovations, and then I watched it at home and my brother was like, "I'm just going to
You were
walk my
like-
dog," and nobody laughed. It was like I
You're
feel
gonna
like
watch
that's
this.
what happened to my
You're gonna watch
viewing.
this like. You're gonna watch this like on a plane, and you're gonna be like weeping. You're gonna have like
Yeah.
No,
the
I'm going to
best
fall asleep. The
experience of your
dialogue's
life.
too
It's
long.
gonna
The
be the
dialogue's drawn out.
opposite.
The dialogue's way too drawn out.
Oh.
This is the first time in a
Oh,
while
it's
where
too
I was
bad.
like, please sing. Usually in musicals, I'm like, don't sing. We don't need any more songs. And this one, I'm like, can we have a song? Okay, let's go ahead.
Is there a song?
Are you guys ready to talk about 1966?
Oh God, yes. Please don't say any more about Wicked.
I'm so sorry, Dave. And Therese messaged me personally and said she loved the movie, so I feel really bad. It's just, oh my God. Fuck it. Okay. So, guys, we always like to start with the box office here in 1966. Not a ton came out of note, but certainly not a ton in general came out in 1966. Weird time in our history. Can't wait to talk about it. Do you guys think that you can guess what was the highest grossing movie that came out in the year 1966? I have a feeling you're gonna
Tarkovsky's
be
Andrei
wrong.
Rublev.
Damn.
Dave, you want to guess?
I can't top that. No, what was it?
The number one film of 1966, and remember these are all domestic rentals because the international numbers we can't trust. So domestically, and before basically Jaws, in 1966, according to Wikipedia via not Box Office Mojo, I forget who they used. Hawaii. Hawaii is a 1966 American epic drama film directed by George Roy Hill, based on the eponymous novel by James
The
Michener.
giant Mishner? Yeah, James Mishner? Yeah.
From 1959. It tells the story of the 1920s Yale University divinity student who, accompanied by his new bride, becomes a Calvinist missionary in the Hawaiian Islands. It starred
Thrilling.
Julie Andrews, Richard Harris, Max von Sydow, and a young Gene Hackman.
Richard Harris had a good year.
Richard
Dude, I
Harris
don't
did
know,
have a
can
good
you
year.
guys can you guys hear that through my microphone? There's a fucking rave party going on underneath me, I think.
Yeah, they just got back
A
from-
little bit.
I don't
but
know.
really
they've
can't
got,
hear it that
they've
much.
got music
I can't
going
hear you
now,
there.
so obviously they've stopped
Zoom-
watching whatever the movie was, and like
We're talking to each
in the
other
fucky
on
part,
Zoom.
but yeah.
Zoom edits that out.
Well, not on
maybe
mine.
I
All
bet
that
you.
functionality's
I bet you
turned off.
they probably just came back from seeing Wicked and they're having a
Nice.
great time.
They needed some techno. I get great.
Guys, do you know what the second highest grossing movie of the year was? So that was $15.6 million. What came in second at $15 million? I'll tell you.
Yeah,
Okay,
just
go
tell
ahead.
me.
The Bible
no.
in the Beginning. Directed by
Beginning.
John Huston, also starring John Huston. It recounts the first 22 chapters of the biblical book of Genesis, covering the stories of the creation and Adam and Eve
What?
to the binding of Isaac. Don't worry, if you don't know what the plot of this movie is, you can go on Wikipedia. They give you a full plot summary of what happens in this movie. That came in at number second. John Huston. Glad he got shot in
Wow.
Chinatown. Number three, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? Our
There you go.
movie of
Wow.
this year. Oh, wait, I buzzed John. I meant to buzz myself.
Yeah, come on.
That's for saying John Huston.
Yeah, we
need
need to test your
Alright, sure, sure,
dexterity, or make your buttons bigger or something.
We'll talk more about Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf soon, but it is pretty fun that Mike Nichols at the screening at the Pantages Theater was so worried that he blew it, partly because he chose to shoot in black and white, which was not common at the time. Almost every studio film, and this was a studio film after all, was shot in color. This actually
And-
won the last ever cinematography award for black and white.
Wait,
Probably
this
because
one's
the competition was a
cinematography?
little light for black and white. Dave, go ahead, buzz yourself, you dick. Buzz yourself. I don't feel like doing it. Dave, it was the last ever black and white cinematography award, with good reason. Went out with a
I
bang.
mean,
Huh?
do you get one just for doing black and white? Was there no other competitors?
Good question. That's right. This movie with a $7.5 million budget, a third of which was just the salaries of the two leads and its playwright, Edward Albee, who's a very, very, very young gay man who wrote about a middle-aged married couple very well.
The two leads
God, tell me he's not the best
so
writer.
badly.
We have the big three. We got Eugene O'Neill, Tennessee Williams, and August Wilson. But then Edward Albee, anybody after them, there's no question, right? There's no question he's the best American playwright after them, right? No question.
I think so.
He has 3.5 Pulitzers because they took one back. I forget why, but it's some dumb reason.
Especially for domesticity. So good with like fucked up familial relationship. Yeah.
A couple other movies that did well. The Sand Pebbles came in at number 4. A Man for All Seasons come in at number 5. Columbia, more about them during awards chatter here when I get there in a second. And to round out the top 10, The Russians Are Coming, The Russians Are Coming.
I thought that would be on there. I was going to guess that initially.
I'm looking forward to that remake.
Grand Prix comes in at number 7. Grand Prix is a American sports drama film. The film includes real-life racing footage and cameo appearances by drivers, including Formula One world champions Phil Hill, father of future world champion Damon Hill, Graham Hill, and Juan Manuel Fangio. This would go on to win 3 Oscars, by the way. Grand Prix by MGM would come in at number 7. The Professionals, Alfie. Yes, the Burt Bacharach song Alfie that Cynthia Erivo just sang very recently, actually, in public. That song was written by Burt Bacharach, but Alfie stars Michael Caine. Michael Caine as Alfie. He was nominated for an Oscar. He didn't win. And number 10, Georgie Girl. So you might not recognize very many of these movies in the top 10 here in 1966. We should also note that a very big movie came out this year, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which most people know as the second highest rated IMDb movie for years. But it was in Italian, and people were like, what the fuck is this movie? And then they click on it, and it's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And they're like, oh my God, this is a really good movie. But actually, it came out in America in 1967. If you want to know why, it's because we talked about it when we did another movie. So you have to go back in our catalog. But they released all 3 of these movies in 1967. They were all filmed in Europe. They came out in Europe and everywhere except for the United States because they were worried about the famous director Akira Kurosawa suing them. That is true. Go back and listen to us. Listen to our fucking feed, people. We talked about it when we did Fistful of Dollars like a year ago.
Yeah, people are doing our backlog. It's showing up on the stats. They're going back and
fucking love that.
Watching the old
Go back right now. John had a lot of good stories about this, but that's right. Akira Kurosawa, the guy who did fucking Rashomon and Seven Samurai, was threatening to sue the makers of this movie so they did not come out in America until 1967 when they were free of the lawsuits, and they released all 3 of those movies in 1967, even though this movie technically came out in 1966 everywhere else in the world except for America. What else do we want to say? Walt Disney passed away this year.
Yeah. Keep finish your shit. Yeah.
He was producing The Jungle Book and Winnie the Pooh, among others. But yes, Walt Disney did pass away this year. He also has the
froze this year. This is when he
Yeah, this is when he froze. This is when he went into the Dr. Evil hyperbolic chamber. And
the Han Solo.
Okay, I'll do the awards in a second. John, why don't you do the movies now since you just actually? Well, I
will. There are a few.
Yeah, go ahead. You got it.
So I wasn't kidding about Andrei Rublev. This is a crazy year for like art house film. If anybody's into like the history of stuff, Polanski made Cul-de-sac. Andrei Rublev
that won the Berlin Film Festival Golden Bear Cul-de-sac.
Ingmar Bergman made Persona.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have I can never remember how to pronounce this movie correctly, but All Hazard Balthazar is one of the very famous movies by Robert Bresson, who is a really famous, incredible, like art house French filmmaker. And there was one more that was just like absolute next level. Oh, Battle of Algiers, super famous fucking movie. And Seconds, starring Rock Hudson. I would say all 6 of those are just magnificent, like filmy films, if anybody's into Criterion and all that stuff. All 6 of those should be in your top 50.
This is not long after Giant. Elizabeth Taylor, of course, in Giant, and in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, but Rock Hudson, megastar, especially after Giant. I mean, come on.
Crazy. Anyway,
all right.
What were we going to say about
couple more awards things here. A Man for All Seasons would actually go on to win Best Picture and Best Director for Fred Zinnemann. He actually produced and directed this film, so Man for All Seasons. Also, the Best Picture nominees, Man for All Seasons, Alfie, The Russians Are Coming, The Russians Are Coming, The Sand Pebbles, and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, all in the top 10 of the box office. That doesn't happen very often. Best Actress would go to Elizabeth Taylor, which was her second Oscar. And you know what? I don't know if you guys had looked up this movie too much when we did it. She was only 33.
Yeah, fifth
She was
husband,
33.
second Oscar.
She gained 30 pounds and aged 20 years to play a 53-year-old middle-aged woman in this movie,
Oh my God.
Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. And this was her 5th Academy Award nomination, so she got off to a hot start. But yes, this was actually her final Academy Award nomination as well. She was 2 for 5 in her first 10 years of her career. At 33 years old, she would win Best
you
Actress.
pretty much only need 2, so you can like bookend. After that, you
Did
just
she
like
win
bunny.
for?
it's an obligation of
Did
shelf
she win
space.
for? Did she win for? A Place in the Sun. Or Suddenly Last Summer.
I think it was Suddenly Last Summer. I think she won for the Tennessee Wills, but you got to look it up. I don't know. Another thing about the Best Actress Award, I don't think this has ever happened since. All 5 nominees were not born in America. We have 3 Brits, a Pole, and a French. A French?
What is
that how you
she?
say that? She's British. She's
A
actually
French
born
woman?
in. She was actually born in England. So we're both Redgraves. Lynn
Mhm.
Redgrave and Vanessa Redgrave were both nominated for Oscars this year for Georgie Girl and Morgan. Vanessa Redgrave.
Her other Oscar was for a movie called Butterfield 8.
Oh, right.
Never
I'm
even
sorry.
heard of that.
Fuck. I looked that up and I forgot.
Anyway, keep going.
When talking about A Man for All Seasons, I should have mentioned that Paul Scofield won, beating Michael Caine. And how the fuck did he beat Richard Burton in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? Paul Scofield, I got to watch this movie because I'm going to be rooting against him. We should also say that Alan Arkin, that's right, the grandfather from Little Miss Sunshine, who was fucking awesome and beat Eddie Murphy for that Oscar, he was nominated for The Russians Are Coming, The Russians Are Coming for Best Leading Actor 60 years ago, and then Steve McQueen for The Sand Pebbles. What a fucking category. Alan Arkin, Paul Scofield, Richard Burton, Michael Caine, Steve McQueen. You kidding me?
Damn, that's
Walter
awesome.
Matthau would win Best Supporting Actor here. And Sandy Dennis from Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, who played Honey, would win for this award. Man for All Seasons would also win Screenplay Based on Another Medium, and A Man and a Woman would win for this, for original. Anything else? Oh, a funny thing happened on the way to the forum came out this year, which most people know, is Stephen Sondheim's first ever musical that he wrote, music and lyrics, sort of flopped. It actually had a really good run as revival and future, worlds.
Zero.
But Zero Mostel was suitless, and it did go on to win Best Scoring of a Music, Adaptation or Treatment. And Ken Thorne would go on and win. And the last thing I'll say is, and it has to do with our movie, so it'll start to segue, although I do have to do some world news, people, is every single category that Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf was eligible for, it was nominated for. And that's the first and only time that has ever happened. Partly because the entire credited cast, they only actually credited 4 cast members. They did not credit the waiter and waitress or the bartender, whatever, at the restaurant.
Agnes and Frank Flanagan.
Yes.
Those are
So literally every actor was nominated in all 4 categories. This is only the second time this had ever happened. And this is never, actually there's one other movie, but it was some weird ass movie. But every single category that it was possibly eligible for, it was nominated for 13 Oscars, and it was nominated for every single one of
Their
them.
Oscar goodie bags must have been spectacular.
That's right. But the most interesting stat about this is Ernest Lehman, who you may know is writing the score to pretty much every movie musical for about 20 years, including West Side Story and I believe The Sound of Music and maybe even Mary Poppins and probably Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, because we did not like that movie when I watched it 2 years ago. I don't care if you did. Fuck it. That movie was long and tiresome.
Dude, you didn't like Wicked. You have no credibility.
Fuck. I have a BFA. Just buzz me, you fucking
BFA.
buzz me, you coward. Buzz me, you coward.
That's so funny.
But Ernest Lehman, this is true. Ernest Lehman is credited with the adaptation of Edward Albee's play. But they hired Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor, paying them $750,000 each in 1966.
Wait,
where you could buy a home in Sydney for $40,000.
I thought she got more than him.
Because they also got percentage of the box office gross.
Okay.
But I don't believe she was given $1 million off the bat. I thought they were both $750,000. But maybe you're right, Dave. Fuck it. I don't know. You do your research. Guys, Ernest Lehman's script, they hated so much. Richard Burton, this is true. Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor hated, and they were married at the time. They were 1 year into their first marriage together. Can't you tell they're married when you see this movie? They hated Ernest Lehman's script so much, they replaced all of his lines with just the original line, the original play. So when Edward Albee was interviewed, he said there were only 2 lines in the final movie that Edward Albee didn't write. And he was paid He was paid $500,000 for the script, Ernest Lehman. And so Edward Albee said $250,000 per line. That's a pretty good rate.
Wow.
And he was nominated for an Academy Award because Edward Albee was a professional and kept his mouth shut, but also refused to do any future productions and also refused to adapt it for an all-male remake with Richard Burton and Laurence Olivier wanting to play George and Martha. He said no. Can you imagine having the balls to tell Laurence Olivier and Richard Burton, no, you can't do my play?
Especially during the
Albee. That would've
70s
been
when
fun.
George and Martin would have totally sold it.
That would have been fun. Yeah, I'm kind
I
of
think
wish
it
he
would've
had
been
not
fun.
said no.
All right. I'll go quickly through the world events. You guys ready for some world events?
I already feel like I'm in
Go-
1966.
Go
and I'm so
quickly because we're
excited.
40 minutes in.
LBJ says we shouldn't leave Vietnam until communism is no more. So we try to drive the North
yeah, they really
Vietnamese
sorted that
north
out.
out of the demilitarized zone. And we try to chase
When you're
them.
right,
Little
you're
do
right.
we know.
You know what I'm
Little do we
saying?
know, they actually lived there and know the land better than everybody. So swamps and hills underneath the ground. Why not? Let's just fucking go in there. We were almost out of there. 1966, almost done.
Oh
any
my
day now.
God. Thank God.
Guys, you ready? January 1st, all U.S.
Oh.
cigarette packs have to carry caution cigarette smoking may be hazardous to your health. 1966. I believe that cured smoking. I believe people stopped smoking
Yeah,
I
then.
so-
think that's
yeah.
the first
It's-
year
I mean,
of
they-
Mad Men. I think
now,
that's the.
now they
Yeah.
in Australia they bought that in I think in the 90s somewhere, and
30 years behind, Dave.
but it's a really graphic picture of what the cigarette does to you,
Right. England
on
has
the-
that
on
too.
the
It literally
packet.
says smoking kills. Yeah.
and like that did actually drop smoking a little bit of it. I think a little.
John
for
Lennon
sure.
in 1966, because I think this is when they're in between. I think Sgt. Pepper came out in 1967. Maybe Revolver was 66. I should have looked that up. Doesn't matter. John Lennon says, we, the Beatles, are more popular than Jesus, and religious folk loved it.
We're more popular than Jesus.
Bigger
Although
than
in
Jesus,
hindsight,
he said.
I forgot if it was Paul or George that said something funny like, it actually worked out well because these people burned all of our records and then would go on to have to buy them all over again.
Well, as soon as they released the White Album on like compact disc, you got to get in the second one.
Yep. San Francisco Giants outfielder Willie Mays signs the highest ever contract at $130,000 per year. Tom Seaver signed for the Mets for a $50,000 bonus, which is a record signing for a rookie. Screen actor Ronald Reagan is elected governor of California. Nothing came of that, I don't think.
No, that didn't
Wait,
dumb
some
down
good-
America.
Some interesting world events. So to start badly, was a lot of political unrest in Africa. There were coups or coup d'etats in 3 different African countries: Burkina Faso, Nigeria, and the Central African Republic. And Ghana. So actually 4. There were 4 coup d'etats. Also, there was a
I
coup
bet we
d'etat
had
in India.
nothing to do with those.
And there's a coup
Yeah.
d'etat in India, which is 5. There were fucking 5 coup d'etats around the world, at least in like major countries that year.
We've seen Sicario.
But-
We know what really happened.
But
Yeah, come on.
coming into our movie here, which is actually the most obscene movie of all time, our movie that we'll talk about it in a second.
Yeah.
Indira Gandhi is elected Prime Minister of India. She is sworn in January 24th, not long after the India-Pakistan peace agreement. And it is a she. And that is still the world's largest democracy. And it was a woman elected in 1966. America, it's okay, apparently, to elect a woman to be president. Who would have thought?
Apparently not.
Yes.
Yeah, apparently.
But can you use more
Jesus.
words with P in it right near your microphone? Because my eardrum hasn't quite pushed through to the other side yet.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to use the
Plosive.
pop socket on my microphone, which I have.
The one thing that didn't
Ooh.
fucking pop just then.
Yeah, it didn't. Yeah, it totally disappeared for me.
Wait, that one didn't pop? Shit. Well, I think it was Zoom. Also, Italian Prime Minister Aldo Moro resigns due to a power struggle in his party. So that's fun. The Church of Satan is established at the Black House in San
Thank
Francisco.
God.
University of Texas at El Paso or Texas Western becomes the first college. Wait, what the fuck? Wait, what the fuck is this? University of Texas at El Paso or Texas Western. Okay, so it's the same school. My apologies. I believe it was known as Texas Western, but now it's UTEP. UTEP becomes the first college. It becomes the first college basketball team to win the Final Four with an all African American starting lineup. And this is in Glory Road, starring Josh Lucas. If you guys want to check it out, it's pretty fun. They had white people on their team. And right before the final game, he says, I think this would be better for the country. They go up against Kansas, Adolph Rupp. That's right. They beat a guy named Adolph, who has a court named after him.
That was his motivation. This will be better for the country.
Is it Kansas or Kentucky?
These guys are amazing.
I think it's Kansas.
These guys are way better than those other people on the court.
And then the next year, everybody was like, okay.
He was right. This is better for the country.
A lot of space stuff. So we are in the 60s, so we'll just mention a couple of them. Soviet Union launches Luna 10, which would later become the first space probe to enter orbit around the moon. It orbited the moon. The U.S. would also orbit the moon this year, too, and they would fake the moon landing not too long. I'm kidding. That was real. I think it was real. The first color television program or transmission in Canada takes place from Toronto. By the way, Canada's having a rough week. They had a rough week this week.
Yeah.
On July 4th, President of the United States, Lyndon B. Johnson, signs the Freedom of Information Act, which I believe I hear about all the time nowadays, the Freedom of Information Act. We're always suing about the Freedom of Information Act. That was actually signed on July 4th. Hey, the Trump administration is trying to avoid the FBI background checks. Freedom of Information Act, can we get some background about what's going on here? Okay. Human spaceflight, Gemini 10 is launched from Cape Canaveral, Cape Kennedy, on a 70-hour mission that includes docking, not the gay way, not the sexual way, with an orbiting Agena target vehicle. Agena. Okay, Lunar Orbiter 1 takes the first photograph of Earth from orbit around the moon. Purges of intellectuals and imperialists are happening now in 2024. I mean, it became the official China policy. They started purging intellectuals and imperialists at the beginning of the Cultural Revolution. Dave,
yes,
the first Star Trek, the original series episode premieres on NBC in 1966. About 13 years before that Star Trek motion picture, which is pretty fun. We
it
talked
is
about
a
that.
surprisingly short run.
The Chevy Camaro is introduced, but guess what? It wasn't called the Camaro. It was called the Camaro. It was called the Panther. Dumb name. Camaro's way better. Sorry, Chevy.
It's called the Panther?
Is that fucking dumb? Hey, am I popping now? Is that popping?
Yeah, motherfucker, you're eating your microphone. What's going on over there?
U.S. President, almost done. There's three more. U.S. President Lyndon B. Johnson signs into law an antitrust exemption, allowing the National Football League to merge with the upstart American Football League.
Sweaty balls.
To give you an idea of how feisty Jeff is being tonight, look at our buzz count right now. It's like,
guys,
he's got double mine.
Dave, I'm about to talk about Kwanzaa, you dick.
It's good for the country.
I'm sorry.
The first Kwanzaa is celebrated.
Where? Where? The first? Are you serious? What do you mean?
You're going to buzz me for this pronunciation. The first Kwanzaa is celebrated by Maulana Karenga, the chair of Africana Studies or Black Studies at California State University, Long Beach. Why why is it that the first Kwanzaa was celebrated and they gave me a person?
Why did you sound like a train conductor just then?
I don't understand either, Jeff. I'm confused.
Wait,
Kwanzaa has not always been a thing.
They made it seem on equal par of Christmas and the Festival of Lights. I feel like Kwanzaa was sold to us to be on the first part, but it actually is pretty new. I didn't know that either. And it apparently started from a professor at a college in the 60s.
Literally, she created it in 1966. Interesting. I did not know that. Good for her.
So when people talk about everybody being woke right now, I mean, that happened in 1966. And pretty quickly, it was up there with the famous holidays.
Good job, Miss Professor Karenga. That's fucking awesome.
In California, shout out. Okay, last one. Are you guys ready? This is the last one. Dave, don't you tell me about how long this episode is. I fucking told you we were going to be talking about these movies today. Are you ready?
50 minutes.
Wait. Okay. I have another joke before this. This is another Dave joke that I was going to throw out. Dave, there isn't an abomination award that you haven't won. Get it? It's from our movie. No?
Oh, is there? Oh, is it? must have been line 20,070.
Yeah,
I must have missed
sorry.
it.
No, it was actually early in the movie.
I missed it in the fucking blur.
I'm sorry. I was actually paying close attention because I was trying to take notes of things.
Well, they talk the same speed you do, so it was perfect.
So many good lines.
Last one. Are you ready? This is the most important one. The first Gävle goat, an annual Swedish Yule goat tradition, is erected in Gävle, Sweden.
Stop it, dude.
Where's the goat?
Sean! They had... This is on like a very legitimate website. And I was like, what the fuck is this? I looked this up and they might as well have said like shirtless men in negative 20-degree water. Like they might have said something like that. Like it was a legitimate news fact. And it's just a fucking goat that they erect in the middle of this Swedish town. It's like this giant construction site. And they just turn into like a Christmas goat.
No one does an erect goat like the Swedish.
Stop.
So much alabaster skin.
I had a Swedish exchange student when I was younger named Henrik.
That town
and actually
runs
all
out
of
of
his brothers
for like a month.
All of his brothers had the same first name, which was his father's name, Lars. And all three boys were named Lars, and their middle names were all different. So his middle name was Henrik. He was very fast, well, when he was younger. And
At what?
he said there's actually still a dent in my friend's room from when he jumped with a hat and hit his hat. And you know, there's like the little like ball, like the little like circular thing in like the middle of the hat. There's a dent. I don't know how he didn't get concussed or have a neck injury.
Through the roof.
But Henrik would have dreams of us, and he said that we would be speaking Swedish in his dreams. So somewhere out there, if you can record dreams, I'm speaking Swedish in one of them. Are you guys ready
Good
to talk
story,
about
Jeff.
Do you guys have anything to add? Do you have anything to add to my world events?
Fuck no.
I don't even know if 1966 has anything else to add.
Yeah.
Good God.
You milked the goat in
right.
1966.
Oh, Barbara Streisand's second ever colorized television special came out in 1966. There's something for you.
Thank God.
Are you guys ready to talk about Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? So as always, we're going to read the IMDb description. Send it on its way. I also want to shout out Mike Nichols' first ever movie. He fired someone on the first day of shooting because it was his first ever film and he had acting legends.
And it was his fucking first AD.
And it was his fucking first AD. Yes, see, Dave Wikipedia this too, John.
Yeah, I did not do that.
Actually, it was on IMDb. And I had the thing on Prime because I watched this on Prime. I don't know if you guys did too. I rented it. Did you rent it or did you do Tubi?
I did Tubi.
Rented.
Dave,
Rented
you
on Apple.
Dave, you sat through all the ads?
Yeah, it was the only way to slow the dialogue down.
I'm sure you had a great experience. Can't wait to hear about it, Dave.
Slow the dialogue
I bet they were well-placed ad breaks, too. I bet they really thought about it.
Oh, yeah, they got it
Dave.
right in the middle of an important sentence.
Right in the middle of a sentence.
Sure.
Every time.
Martha, you stupid.
Yeah, don't worry, Dave. They had all of those location changes to hide the commercial breaks into in this movie. So I should also shout out Haskell Wexler was the cinematographer nominated for an Oscar that Dave apparently thinks shouldn't have been. And Ernest Lehman, as I said before, was nominated for an Oscar, although he probably shouldn't have been. And Alex North did the score, which I should say, when this movie starts and they're doing, is it Smith College? It's one of those like Northeastern private schools. You knew this was not going to be a happy movie from the second that score started. Opening credits. You're like, this is not going to be a happy movie.
Actually, while we're talking about Wexler, let's just say he was brought in to replace Harry Stradling Sr., who was fired at the beginning for trying to beautify Liz Taylor because they didn't want her to look good.
I didn't know if it was the cinematographer or somebody else. That's wow.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth Taylor was
That's
working
awesome.
so hard to not look good.
That's awesome. Good for them.
And again, 1 year into the marriage with Richard Burton, they also had in their contracts they couldn't work before 10 a.m. or after 6 p.m., even though most shoots start at dawn. And 6 p.m. would also include time in the makeup, which for Elizabeth Taylor, who's trying to age herself up, would take time. And they would take long lunches and get drunk and come back late and say, "Sorry, Mike, ready to shoot?"
That's the dream.
Oh my God, dude.
They
Oh
were
my
so
God.
badly behaved.
And
Ugh,
Put the guy in
cannot
fucking
imagine.
guy in therapy.
I wonder if they saw that movie, and because Elizabeth Taylor said this is her best performance, they probably saw this movie and they probably wanted to run to him and just apologize to him on the spot.
Fucking hope so.
They probably wanted to go up to him and be like, "We are so sorry.
were
I
like-
will."
Sorry,
they
we
were
didn't.
like,
Sorry, we didn't
it
come to
worked.
rehearsals.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
And as
cool.
we already
Fucking
alluded
cool.
to, the first AD was fired because somebody told Mike Nichols he needed to fire someone on the first day to show, basically like prison, to show that you belong and you don't fuck around, because he was very
So,
famous in theater, comedy,
Anytime I'm
Chicago,
directing,
New
I'm
York.
gonna shank my AD immediately.
And of all people, it was his AD, because his AD referred to this movie as just another film. And he and Mike Nichols believed they were dealing with like a masterpiece script. And so when the AD said it's just another film, made a huge show of it and fired him on the spot. Holy shit. Mike Nichols.
Yep.
Here we go. IMDb description.
Here we go.
A middle-aged New England associate professor and his wife, with the help of alcohol, use their young guests to fuel anguish and emotional pain towards each other over the course of a distressing night for them and the audience. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? Who wants to take it away? First time watch for everybody, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. John.
Okay.
John was very curious about this, so he should start.
You okayed this movie. So, Dave, if you're pulling a fucking fast one, you're about to say you love this movie. I can't wait, although I don't think that's the case. So let's start with John. John, let's do the compliment sandwich. You go first. Dave will take a dump on the bread that you put on the bottom, and then I'll put a nice piece of bread on top. So we'll have like a good compliment sandwich. John,
All right.
take it away.
I loved it. Dave?
Yeah, of course you did. Dave?
That's it. So you got.
I talked to a composing friend of mine
okay,
at school
okay.
that said he loved this movie too.
I
by
thought
the
it
way.
was I thought it was great. And you guys know that I struggle with play adaptations to movies. I think they're really, really hard. And I think they often don't lend themselves to what movies can do and cinema can do. And the way we tell stories from something as simple as the cut, literally like an edit, which is, just there's something in that you can do in movies that you can't do in plays. I sent you guys that Stanley Kaufman New York Times review from 1966, and he had just a little blurb in there about what more inhibiting conditions could be imagined for a first film for a director. If the director is a man of talent, the form is not Olympic, but he lives. Any transference of a good play to film is a battle. The better the play, the harder it struggles against leaving its natural habitat. And yeah, so anyway, I still think that's true. They did break it up into these different set pieces, which certainly helped. But at the end of the day, you're gonna be just pointing camera at people talking a lot. It's a play. That's kind of just the nature of what these things are. And I felt like Mike Nichols made it cinematic, mostly through a very simple effect of knowing when to go wide and when to go into intense intimacy.
I was gonna say the same
And
thing. When she brings up the sun, when she brings up the sun and they close up on him, that was where I was
There's
like,
just a lot of there was just a lot of really intentional camera placement, which was it wasn't surprising. I'd heard that happened, and I've seen clips of this, but I was not let down. I thought it was really impressive, and I just love stories about crumbling domesticity. I just think it's so fascinating. I just think everything that happens inside homes and houses might be the most compelling drama ever, just because everybody can relate to it. Everybody
either-
knows.
Did either of you have an argument with your significant other in the past week since you knew we were going to be talking about this? Because it makes things way worse.
No,
We don't have arguments.
definitely
We have
not.
discussions.
But I can't imagine. I feel like I've had a couple of, I think, here, let me put it this way. I hope nobody has been Martha and George, but I think everyone knows what it feels like to be the young couple a little bit. When you're around your friends or family members, when you're around couples who
When
are
they
like,
start arguing
God, they're
and
at each
stuff, yeah.
other's throats. Yeah, it's just so awkward. So like that perspective, if nothing else, there's so much tension around the idea of like we're up too late and these young people are coming over, and for some reason they're like held hostage within these people's wrath.
And they can't get home.
The play is
They pulled that off. I think that is the signature conflict in this, is how can you prevent this young couple from going home? Because if they can just go home, the movie is a movie.
Well,
if there's no reason for them to still be
If
there,
they can
the
just
movie's
go
a movie.
home,
And they
thankfully the movie's over.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, so Dave, go ahead and go off. Go off. I bagged on Wicked. Go ahead and bag on this classic. Go ahead.
I mean, I once saw a
which commercial did you like more than this movie?
Elmira?
It was
Elvira?
no, it was the shaman ad in Spanish.
Charmin
Was my favorite. Yeah.
Right.
But I once saw a wombat run over by a kingswood. And
Stop!
Shut
stop!
the fuck up.
It-
Stop.
This was fucking terrible.
No,
Oh my
it wasn't.
God.
You cannot like it. It's okay if you don't like it, but how do you say
Okay.
it's terrible?
I won't say like across the board it was terrible, because there was some serious acting going on and the performances
There was
great, except for when they were trying to act drunk. It was distractingly bad.
trying.
Yeah.
I think they were actually really drunk in real
They
life.
did not sell it at all. Yeah, well,
I
those
think there was
the two
any
leads might have been
acting
drunk.
going on at all, Dave.
Dude, it
I think they
reminded
just
me. It
drank.
reminded me when I saw an
Elizabeth Taylor was
off-Broadway
probably the
play
most
above the
depressed she's ever
Producers
been.
Club, and there's this one girl who her only acting skills seemed to be talking and suddenly screaming for no apparent reason, and they used that all the way through the show, and it was the same
You
thing.
don't think
it
it
was
was justified?
like,
You
no,
don't
their
think it was justified?
personalities changed on a dime. There was no rhyme or reason to it. And just the dialogue was just lightning pace, and there was so much of it for the sake of having dialogue. Like, if you adapt a play to a film, then you have the opportunity to show, not tell. And they didn't. Like, they just relied on the tell. They put all the dialogue back in, and it was just dialogue after dialogue after dialogue. There was a little bit of cinematography snuck through, and dude, every time there's one scene where they're cutting between a close-up and a wide shot, and the close-up is out of fucking focus.
On
And this was-
purpose, because they're getting drunk, Dave. It was bold.
No, it was just out of focus on him. There's other shots where they drifted in and out of the focal plane because they had the iris wide open. Now I get it, that's hard, and you're not going to tell Elizabeth Taylor don't lean forward while you're acting, but like they drifted out of the focal plane and they didn't correct it. They put that in the movie, and this was nominated for fucking Best Picture.
And it actually won Best Cinematography, black and white. Also,
Fuck
they
that
would've-
noise.
Also, they could have told Elizabeth Taylor, because apparently she was the only one with film acting experience, and even Richard Burton had acted, but she
This
was really the pro,
so
and they all like
frustrating
turned
for
her.
me to watch. I did not enjoy this at all.
Wow, you were the deciding vote. I want you to remember that. John recommended it. I was like, this is pretty good. I worked on the play at one point, and Dave was like, fuck it, let's do Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Let's do
Yeah.
it. We could have done fucking A
And-
Man for All Seasons.
Oh
we
my
could have
God,
seen why Paul
I wish I'd
Schofield
kept my
won that
mouth
Oscar.
shut. Because, yeah, no, this, like,
We could have done fucking Alfie, Dave.
dude, yeah, we could have. I'm sorry.
Dave, you didn't like any of it? You didn't like any of the scenes? Or
No, there's
how
a
about the scene outside with the two guys with the swing and when they're laying
Yeah,
down
and then it
stuff?
turns into The Strangers.
that was, I mean, there were certain bits that I did like, but that is where that scene happens, where one shot is completely out of focus as well. Like they're cutting between a two shot and a close up, and the close up is fucking out of focus. And they
See, I
keep
thought
cutting
you-
to it.
Huh, I didn't
I
notice
thought
it
you-
too much.
I thought you would have related to the family that is way too drunk and in an argument and a fight, but then they just keep offering everybody drinks.
Well, no, that's just Christmas in Australia.
We don't need to fight about it. That's just Christmas in Australia.
Come on, hump the hostess.
Get the guests. All right, Jeff,
And
bring us back
No, I
to
just,
the
I-
positive.
Well,
I was not on board for a lot of this, and they lost me by the end of it, and I was just like, "What the fuck is happening?" And then, yeah, it
So you
reminded
were-
me. The drama level reminded me of like some plays that I was forced to study in like high school and primary school in Australia, and
Oh my
fuck you
God,
for
can you
bringing
imagine
that
studying this
memory back.
play in primary school? Can you imagine like a bunch of 10th graders and the woman's like, so what do you think they mean?
Dude, read Don's
They're
Party.
talking about him being an inadequate lover. Read what?
Don's Party. It's an Australian play.
Don's Party.
Yeah, they study that in high school in Australia.
You know what? We could use some tough class here in America. I did a scene in this play. I think I did the first George and Nick scene. I think I did the first one when I was in a class one time. It's pretty fun though. Whose wife? Your wife? My wife? No, my wife. No, your wife. Like I think I did like
Yeah.
that scene one time where the guy, he tells a long story about the kid who kills his mother or something. I think I did that scene one time. It was a long time ago. So as soon as the dialogue started, I remembered it. This movie's fucking great, Dave. Shut the fuck up. I actually can't believe the Broadway play is like
Oh my
an
God.
hour longer than this too. So
having
you
seen
say
this-
that the fucking
Having
play is
seen
so
this
much
movie,
longer.
I'm never seeing the fucking play, dude.
The play is
Like-
way longer. Way longer. But Dave, you watch the devolution of a couple, and then the other couple devolves in real
Well,
time.
Yeah.
And you think it's going to be the other way around. You think they're going to leave. And she says, I want a child. And I don't know how Edward Albee pulls it
Okay,
off, but
but
you
no,
think
she
that's
says
optimism. You think
she
that's hope.
says,
Usually child means new, like rebirth and growth. But actually they leave. And even though she wants a child, you are a cynic. He makes a cynic out of the audience. And,
no,
and he
it was
does
right
it
there
really
in front
well.
of your face. Like 10 minutes before that, she's like, I don't want a baby. I don't want a baby.
But then
Out
she
on the
does.
lawn.
She's also a drunk. That is the hardest role in the show, by the way. 100% is Honey, who is drunk 10 minutes in, and her throwing up is basically the whole reason that this play happens, because otherwise they would just run. And
I
they
mean,
would go
if
the
they
fuck
just
home.
had the internet and IMDb, none of this would have ever happened.
I know, that's why it's so great, Dave. That's why you have to be in the home with them. That's why you have to be there and watch them, because this thing happens in real time. You're watching what happens in real life
There
when
is
people
so
don't have television.
much repetitive dialogue. So
it's not
much
repetitive, though.
repetitive dialogue.
It's
It's
repetitive,
100%
but
repetitive. They said the
but-
same
but
thing over
this-
5 fucking times.
I bet you if we did the fucking onion of this and yes, the Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and some of the Sun stuff is repetitive, but they have changed. And so therefore the substance underneath it has changed.
Have
I feel
they
like the actors
changed? Or
fucking
did they
nailed
just
it. This is one of
finish
the
their
best
game?
acted movies of all time. This is so good.
Yeah,
again,
I
Henry-
disagree.
Sorry, not Henry. Nick and
I-
Henry ground
I
this
feel
movie
like they
because
bought those nominations.
This is infringing on your Godfather's a terrible movie argument as well. We're getting into the space of,
So it should be noted that,
objectively.
I'm sorry.
Georgia-
There are cinematography errors. There's repetitive dialogue.
errors.
There's, yeah,
I love errors. Can you?
Now hold on. Let's. So I will just say, both of these things can be true. It's hard to adapt dialogue-heavy, plays, which are most plays, into movies because it's so driven by dialogue. That can be true, but isn't it also true that I think some of the best, what is supposed to be very realism dialogue that isn't super snappy or cool or stylized, people repeat themselves, especially when they're fighting. Like this kind of dynamic, like of course they say the same fucking thing
Right.
over and over and over again. It's a constant duel. I'm not saying I agree with you, but I bet you're not alone that a contemporary audience is less interested in watching this kind of domestic feud because I think culturally this isn't acceptable anymore.
I mean,
Where I think a lot of
they
people
did
back
take the
then
feud and
were in
ramp
this
it up to like
marriage.
14. So
Well, maybe, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like a lot of
Right.
people got married too young, were just in this kind of marriage back then where they were just like, I guess I'm going to have the joy I'm going to find out of this relationship is by terrorizing my partner. And it kind of
Right.
turns into this like
yeah,
fucked
that's
up
that,
game.
Yeah,
In a good way, maybe we have moved past that and maybe we are less receptive to it. But I still think I am still captivated and fascinated by how far people are willing to go to destroy people around them, and they're willing to sacrifice themselves in the process.
That's a fair point.
And I think
I did start rooting for the gun he went and got at one point.
Man,
so
that was
gun. Yeah.
I was like, whoa, what's he about to do there? So I think
especially after
and
the
that happens
affair.
at the start of the movie. I already hated these characters so much by that point.
Well, and after the affair happens, it's basically
So Dave, let's recalibrate what I think is required to watch this kind of movie. And I think Tracy Letts funnels this into August Osage County as well. I love these kinds of really, really, really dark comedies. I think these are heightened exercises.
This is not a comedy. This is not a dark comedy. This is a drama. You think this is a dark comedy?
Nah.
I think a lot of the best theater doesn't really use the word comedy or drama. It's just human. There's so much humanity in this.
This is Long Day's Journey.
Yeah, of course it's dramatic, but I don't know. I don't know if it has that kind of weight to it for me. Anyway, that's not the point.
This doesn't have weight to it. They made up a son and killed him.
No, of course it has weight, but I think there's something even more palatable about this than Long Day's Journey.
Wow.
I think there's something. I think it's hard.
That tells you a lot about John.
I'm not.
This
criticizing.
is very palatable. This. Then
shut the fuck up.
Then the tuberculosis kid dies, and ether addicted mom. Anyway, sorry.
That you're proving my point.
Agree
it just sounds like a fucking.
The main characters
ridiculously
are fucking irritating.
All right, wait, John. Finish your point.
Go.
Jesus fucking Christ. I'm trying to say these kinds of stories, these kinds of plays, especially, and we don't see it as often in movies. And I think one reason that they suffer is because movies tend to have to be shoved into a genre. If you're a drama or a comedy. But theater gets away with it. And I think what they do so well with this kind of story is they are almost like a stylized exercise in human capacity for emotion. This is almost unbelievable. How far they push each other and how relentless they are at doing it. It really is almost not realistic.
They're trying to push that line, yeah.
I think that's the point.
Yeah,
I think that's the point. I think it's the point. And I think you're not necessarily supposed to watch it as realism. That's the feeling I took away from it. I think if you're looking for reality and you start saying things to yourself like, why are they repeating that so often? I think you're definitely not going to enjoy it because I don't think that's what Albert Albee is trying to do. And I think Mike Nichols successfully made me feel like I'm going to take you to the edge of this cliff and then we're going to leave you at this place where you might not be entirely satisfied by the fact that these two humans found a truce by killing their made-up son. I think there's almost something like intentionally unsatisfying about that.
They took me to the edge of that cliff and just all they maybe want to do was give Mike Nichols a little push. And
the music and everything, like they made you feel like it was almost like
the music. There's barely any music
like
at the end.
The score that comes at the very end, yeah. I don't know. Anyway, so I
actually love that
what I'm saying is
there was barely any score in this. I love this. What were you saying?
I do feel like they
wait. Let John. Is one more sentence.
Okay.
What's this sentence, John?
Prove
to us you're not a cynic.
I'm done. Fuck you guys.
What?
What was your sentence?
I like this movie. I think it is. It doesn't matter. It's good. This movie is good.
This movie too. I actually thought this movie was a half an hour shorter than it was.
But I don't think people should try to watch this.
Dude.
I don't think people should try to watch this as though this is a representation of most people's marriages.
No. And that's why we do the setup of 1966.
But I mean,
this is the turning point of everything. This was literally the most vulgar film of all time. Dave, if you saw this in 1966, you would say, finally, people understand me. Not because of your marriage, but because they say cunt on screen. Or they don't. You know what I mean?
They don't.
But you're Australian. You get it.
I mean, yeah, they did have to cheat to get this past the Legion of Decency. So.
Yeah, they had to pull in Jackie Kennedy.
Yeah.
That's how they got it past the Legion of Decency or whatever. Yeah.
Dave, you weren't. Forget about. Don't bring up out of focus again. The actual composition choices. You weren't fascinated by some of them?
For me, the close-ups were too close-up, and there were times when a character was pacing and they were just panning back and forwards, and it's
I
like
liked it.
that's seasickness in a box.
Oh, I know
man.
exactly what you're
Dave,
talking about. Where
the
it's going between the two clouds.
The
Oh, come on.
seasickness, they're drunk. You were supposed to feel a little sick watching them. I
No, I
kind
get
of got
it.
that.
I get it. They're supposed to be moving erratically, and you're meant to be off balance with. But then it was just. I'm trying to think about how to put it, but it's like there were times when they did that, and then there were times they just sat there in a wide shot. There
Dave,
was,
are you a house?
And that bothered you?
little?
You didn't like that it kind of because it definitely did that. It felt again. It felt very intentional. It didn't feel like they had all this coverage and they just edited it that way. I
Yeah.
feel like they
No.
designed the scenes that way. And for me, that is what made it. I'm glad they didn't just
Yeah.
do one or the other.
But then there was
I
times
think it
where they
works that they
suddenly
went
went
back
to a
and forth.
shoulder, and the camera is moving like this, but the actor's moving in and out of the focal plane, and that irked me like fucking a lot.
I'm
You
gonna
mean
take
like
that.
there were a few like POV shots where it felt like they were kind
Yeah.
of like
Yeah.
going across them and stuff. I mean,
I mean,
I
if
don't
you
know. I
wanna
if
take
you're
that as
gonna
interesting.
pan and steady and track your whole movie, and suddenly you whip a camera out in the shoulder, like that's gonna and you only do it for one scene or two scenes, like that's inconsistency.
hold on. We have
Pick
to
a
put this
style.
in the right context. It's his first movie.
Yes.
If I made this for my first movie, you would tell me to my face,
Oh
this sucks.
no! But then
like,
John, you just
don't
said
have
this is a
talent.
great movie. Now you're settling. John, you're settling. You're allowing Dave to
No,
settle.
I'm not. No, I'm not settling.
saying,
I'm
"Oh,
saying
but it was a
even
great
if you
first
feel that
movie."
way. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying even if you feel like you have those reservations, you really think that you would hold them accountable to that for their first time out too? You weren't impressed with their ability to at least make choices?
Tough thing about film. You don't
I mean,
get
that's a fair point, but
You
I
only
mean,
get one chance to make a first impression.
yeah, this is
I think you did all right.
This is hailed as like the reason I'm being so hard on this. It was nominated for like the most prestigious award you can fucking get for a film, and
Dave, are you a
I
houseboy
don't
or a
know
stud?
why. Like I'm not saying the film was bad. I'm saying the film had problem. Okay, I'm saying the film was bad. I did not enjoy it at all. But it wasn't for me. That's fine. Film is subjective. But again, it was nominated for like
Everything.
every fucking Academy Award they could.
Not a lot of movies came out this year. Did you
I'm just
listen to my list?
because I mean, we have had we guys we've
There's
talked
too much
about
unrest.
hundreds of movies on this podcast, and you're not saying that you appreciate
nearing
it and it's
1,000
just
now.
not for you. You're saying you think it's objectively bad in every capacity.
Not every capacity, but yes.
Dave, you're loud and vulgar and
Damn,
wear the
dude.
pants.
Acting wise, no. It was like they did the jobs and it was fantastic from a performance level. But I just
There's
didn't
probably
like
an
the
irony
technicals
in there,
behind
but
it.
I'm not drunk enough to find it. I can't believe these lines you didn't say that. I'd be like, this is me. Like,
This is me. I mean, I hope you can't say that. I'm
Yeah,
glad,
I hope
I'm
it's
glad
not
you
me.
didn't feel like,
Fuck hell.
man, this is me and Therese every night.
not
I
you
can't
and
get enough of this.
Therese.
Finally, somebody wrote down my story. I'm
Guys,
glad
they
you
have the
didn't say
same
that.
names as the first ever couple. The
We don't
first ever
even-
first couple.
Yeah, we don't
George
even have a cat.
Washington, Martha Washington. Their names are George and Martha. Like, it's the intelligence, the cleverness.
Why did you say Martha?
I'm telling you. All right. Were there any standout lines or moments for you guys? Because yes,
I've
Dave,
mentioned
you're
a
not
bunch.
wrong. It is rolling constantly on the. I totally know what you mean. There's a lot of similar
Mhm.
expressions of the same point
This one just didn't
until
sit
much
well
later
with
in
me.
the film when it starts to shift.
Yeah.
But were there any lines that you felt like, oh my God, that was really good, or it spoke to me?
I
or
mean,
pointed, or you just
nothing
liked the
stuck
way
in
it
my
sounded?
memory, but I do remember going, okay, that was a pearl of a line several times.
Yeah.
But still, a lot of it I felt like it was dialogue for the sake of dialogue, and they were doing the dialogue. I mean, and we've already established that they replaced the play dialogue, which I'm not 100% sure works for a film.
Dude, you're not. I'm sure you're not alone there. I think a lot of people. There's a very strong, clear argument for what you're saying, for why this material plays are so hard to adapt for a photographic medium. It is hard. You have to be someone who does want to sit down and listen to people talk a shit ton. I really loved that line. It was really early on, right before they came over, right before the kids got there. And I'm going to misquote it, but it was, I think she says it to him, and she says, if only you existed, then I would despise you. If only you existed. It was just, it was
I
just
swear,
so-
if you existed, I'd
it's-
divorce you.
Well, it's I don't know. Maybe the tone rubbed me the wrong way because, like,
But again,
I
Dave,
literally
listen.
had someone tell me I'm only half a person once when I first moved
Okay,
here. So
that's really sad. But Dave,
yeah.
listen.
I was
He
really
said,
drunk, Dave,
if
and I'm sorry.
only-
All right? I'm sorry.
Dave, the line is, if only you existed, I'd divorce you. And ultimately, we find out that they made up their son who doesn't exist. So the whole thing, they're playing with delusion. I don't know. I think it's pretty great.
That's such a good line. That is so, and it's funny.
Again-
Come on, that's funny.
But again,
the things they
it's-
said, you didn't
it's
find any
such-
humor in this?
It's such
No, I'm
dialogue. I was so
100%.
conscious it was adapted from a play.
I don't know. I know what you mean, but we saw like Marty, which wasn't adapted from a play. I feel like this is in a similar world. It doesn't have as many set pieces. I feel like I'm with you. I also love Martha. Will you show her where we keep the euphemism? It's a little
Sure, is
clever. It's a little clever, but
Yeah.
it's so grounded. And I also just love that Richard Burton
I sneak it at
apparently
that.
said that Mike Nichols like made him underplay everything, but he was so afraid to approach him that he would always like just try. You know, he would always like kind of talk him down, like, oh, he's trying. Oh, why don't you just try it? Just try it like nothing. Try this, and then he was always right, and he always used like the underplayed version, but he was like afraid to talk to Richard Burton. But basically, got Richard Burton to basically to scale back his performance because he's a big theater actor, and that one went really well. Are you sure where we keep the euphemism? That was good.
Here's the point. Here's the last point I'll make. 'Cause I don't know if I've ever really experienced this before, and it took what you despise so much about it, Dave. It's hard to watch, and I do think that this is what it achieved. By the time she leaves him at the parking lot and picks them up, there to the end, but specifically between Martha, what she does with the young man, and when George realizes, yes, the chimes, the door
Yeah.
will ring, it will open,
yeah.
and I have my plan. I don't think I've ever felt so scared for how much power two humans had over each other to hurt each other.
Yeah.
When it got to that place, I don't know, I felt this very specific thing where I was like, oh my God, they're like each other's
Oh my
tyrant.
God, I think
They're like each other's worst. They have so much.
They are each
Power.
other's
putting it like that,
antagonists.
I think
it's
you've
scary.
hit the nail on the head because I was like, I don't know, you remember, I was in a relationship that was basically toxic. Like we brought out the worst in each other whenever we're in the same room. And I lived through that for a while. And maybe this brought back memories of that. And that's why I reacted so negatively to this film.
Dude, for sure. I mean, I'm sure anyone who's in a not healthy relationship and you see something like this, Jeff made a comment like, oh, did you
Because
guys fight with your...
you
But
guys know
honestly,
that
it
shit
makes
was
you wanna,
toxic.
like-
I was living with you when I was going through it. So
I do. I remember.
You don't want your
remember
significant other to say a line that reminds you of this movie. And I'm not saying that happened to me. I'm just saying.
Just the links they were willing to go to find the common ground was hurting each other.
Yeah.
And eventually I
Yeah.
found a way through it. And I think by the end of it, I did find, I feel like I felt exactly what you felt, Dave. I just didn't hate the experience, but I was
Right.
hoping for like, what's the point of this?
I think
What are we getting to
it's
at the end
possible
of it?
my life experience made me hate the experience.
Yeah, for
Mm.
sure, dude. But what I did eventually get to was like, I don't think it's as reductive as, oh, they kind of do this every night. They hurt each other just enough, and then they have the next day, and they survive until they start drinking again. I think there's something more than that, where the only common ground they can actually share is when they realize, are you hurting as much as I'm hurting? I don't think there's like a hug by the end of that.
No.
But I feel like at some point they realize
was a
like the
little
only way their
tenderness, though.
truce can come, there are casualties
Yeah.
in their relationship. Let's put it that way. It's like a dirty war. And their ceasefires, they probably do not last long. For some reason, they are hanging on to each other. And I don't think it's as simple as what she says to the young man when she turns on him and is fighting with him, to George Siegel's character of like, because George knows he's the only one who can fight with me. He's the only one who can keep me this way. He's the
Yeah,
only
she
one who
needs
knows how to
him.
play the game.
This is the
I think
Joker.
there's
This is the
something
Heath
more than
Ledger
that.
Joker. No, I need you. You complete me. You know, in a weird way, that's what they are to each other.
I think it's that, but I think it's even more than that. I think that there's something.
Right, the
I think
Chris
that
Nolan
there's
film's a little
something-
thin.
Who knew this movie was going to cause a therapy breakthrough for me?
Therapy is
Dave.
probably Edward Albee probably said, I hope everybody who sees this movie gets a therapist.
Yeah.
But don't you guys feel that this was not? Let me ask this question. I don't think this was the first time. I mean, excuse me. I do think this was the first time that he killed their son.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Oh,
It was the
yeah,
first time they
of course.
mentioned the son. She had never mentioned the son before.
Well,
That's
no,
why the rules of the game
yeah.
changed.
No, they did make mention that she'd brought this up before. Because he was like,
he said, don't bring up the little guy.
Yeah.
Don't bring up the little one or something before she answers the door and lets them in. Like, I feel like they talk about it,
but
and
they don't
use
bring it up
against
in
each
public.
other.
That's their one rule, is that they don't bring it up in public. And that's why the close-up came on George so hot when she mentioned, oh, yeah, our son. And all of a sudden it went to George, and he was like, what the fuck did she just say? It's because they don't mention this in public.
Here we go. We're here now. This is what I'm getting at. I think the play, what happened for me after this scene is over, when they actually go to sleep and wake up the next day, I think what changed about their relationship, what I was looking for the whole time, what's going to shift because of this, so that it's not just two people arguing.
Hopefully the focus.
Is that I think, shut the fuck up, is that I think now that they actually articulated their worst fear, that the thing that maybe we were most ashamed of is admitting the fact that we couldn't create something better from our shitty selves.
Yeah.
And I have murdered him now. The idea of our potential happiness is totally dead. That maybe when we wake up tomorrow, we won't be able to hide with anger. We won't be able to hide behind this anymore. We can't just do this anymore because we did something we've never done before. We murdered the idea of our happiness. And I guess there's a part of me that like, God damn, that's the fight that you kind of, every couple has like a mini version of at some point, where you kind of really just strip away your ideas of what you were going to be. And you have to actually decide, are we going to move together forward? Are we going to move forward together? Or are we going to split? I would love to talk to this couple a week from now. You know what I mean?
I'm not going in their fucking house.
It did for me.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we don't want to get trapped there.
I'm not
Actually,
going in their fucking house.
I kind of do want to have. I kind of want to have one night with this couple just to witness it, get really drunk and watch them go at it.
There's one other
you're
really
the
good
motherfucker
line.
that walks in the haunted house and when it goes, get out, you keep walking.
Wait, there's one other good line. A drowning man grabs on to the ones nearest.
Hmm?
Man, she was so mean to him, dude.
Yeah.
She was so mean to him.
Yeah,
It was
but then
so terrible.
In theory, I'm not surprised it's written by a man. He just said, "Okay, well, this is now my permission to then be just as."
I'm gonna ruin you.
But again,
absolutely.
He tried to.
It was her fault. It was Adam and Eve.
She was just portrayed
the
as ugly the whole way
first
through.
couple. She was the one who brought up the son, so therefore he said, "I can now do whatever I want because you broke the rule." He blames her, and then he makes it worse. I feel like that was Dave. I think the Adam and Eve, the George and Martha Washington. I feel like this is one of those plays that's an all-timer. I think the movie is too, but I get where you're coming from. And such is life. We got to end this fucking segment. We just have to. But this is a great conversation. Fuck everybody. This is better than Wicked. Let's go ahead and spin the random year generator. No, I'm kidding. I love Wicked's great. I can't wait to
No,
rewatch
you're
it.
not. I don't think you're wrong about that.
I do.
Let's spin the random year generator. I don't know when we're seeing each other
Wicked
again.
was in
Maybe in 2
focus.
weeks. That would be great. But like, we're going to talk about this whatever fucking year and whatever movie comes up right here. Let's
Anyone
do
want
it.
to guess?
Fuck.
man.
2014. Did we do 14 recently? So 13.
87.
Ooh. We did 87 very recently, by the way.
Here we go.
Did we really? Is that why it was in my head?
19.
50s.
We're
Oh
going
my
backwards.
God. 1950. Dave is
Classic.
going to hate
Right
this
on the
movie.
nose.
All right, we're going to get
You know,
right
it's Marty.
You're right. Touche. I'm just kidding, Dave. You did great. This is great. I'm so glad we finally had a movie where it wasn't a consensus film. This is so great. And just like, why did we have 2 this week with Wicked? Damn it.
This was
Can't wait.
a
I knew you were
vibrant
gonna hate it.
episode.
I knew you
I
were
didn't
gonna
hate it. I
Wicked.
didn't hate it. I was just
I
disappointed.
knew you were going to hate that movie
I
so
did
much.
not.
I knew you were
I
gonna
did
loathe
not
it.
hate it.
And
not hate it.
all those poor puppies.
I did not hate it. I can't wait to rewatch it. All right.
All right.
Shut
Let's-
the fuck up.
I need to rewatch it. I really need to.
Yeah, you do. Get your head straight.
It was a sweet, cute, little charming movie,
man.
guys. Okay.
So funny.
It was an action
We're
film. It
gonna
was awesome.
do action. Get the fuck out of here with action. Are you fucking kidding me right now? You're fucking kidding me with action? Fierro
no
comes in, he
Gladiator
was just
II.
like a normal, good-looking dude, and you're telling me it was an action movie? Get the fuck out of here. At least they like walked upside down on some library books. Otherwise, I was like, okay.
That was such
Okay.
a cool sequence.
really
Yes, it was. Why wasn't the fucking dialogue in a completely different tone and pace? Why was it so introverted for the rest of the movie? That's the scale. Let me see some fucking kids snogging behind the fucking books. Let me see it.
Okay, we're going to talk about what we've been watching.
And also, let me see Glinda
Guys,
talk to
I
some
just
people.
want
I
to point
didn't
this out.
believe it.
Wait, I just want to point this out. We talked about Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf this week, and I don't think we have argued with each other this much. Like on every aspect of our show, I don't think we have fought this much and yelled at each other this much in a
Oh my
very
God, yeah,
long
it's going to be
time.
so
Fuck both
much.
of you guys.
The audio is going to be clipped to fuck in this episode.
God, that's so
Good.
funny, dude. That's good.
This was a
Please.
free-for-all.
Pass me it's pasta. All right, what you guys been watching? Dave, we'd like to start with you. We're talking about the fucking 1950 movie at the end of the episode.
We nice throw, dude. We
Oh,
finally
God.
sat down and watched Alien Romulus because
Ah.
it is now dropped on streaming.
What do you think?
Solid
Sounds on
entry.
theaters.
It's.
Hey.
I mean, I know why they did it. I didn't. Like in the practical / digital effect they used. Great. I feel like they were very lucky that that spaceship landed in the landing dock.
Yeah.
Very lucky. Like, let's not mess with the physics of that. But the like setting the tone and the little throwbacks to like the look of the original, I really dug it. And the fact that they used like practical fucking face huggers as much as they could was fun.
It's a fun sequence.
Because
Yeah,
like
they're sneaking through.
when I told
Do you
when I
agree?
told my wife they used like those things are real and I saw them driving around on set, she's like, "What the fuck?" So yeah.
Do you agree with what you remember when I saw it and I said there are two kinds of alien movies, the horror and the kind of the sci-fi mystery. Did you enjoy going the horror route with this installment?
I kind of did. Yeah. Like
Nice.
it
Yeah, it
was
was fun.
it was kind of just right for me. Like there was
Nice,
maybe
dude.
one jump scare in the whole movie because every time you see a
It's a
flat
good one.
every time you see a flat bit of water, you know a fucking face huggers come out of that shit. Like
I was talking about the last one.
no, but
she
like
looks up-
that's what I'm saying. That one wasn't a jump scare for me because
Oh,
you
that
fucking
one.
know it. If you've seen Aliens, you know it's coming out. But yeah, that
Right,
that
yeah,
last
yeah,
one,
yeah.
that got me good. Like hair on end and shit. So yeah,
it was so loud in the theater. Is that all you saw?
that. I think that's all I saw. Yeah.
Nice, dude. I watched. Did I mention The Day of the Jackal last week? Had I already seen it?
I got so drunk I don't remember what our year was.
Okay.
Until...
So The Day of the Jackal is a mini-series starring Eddie Redmayne.
Oh yeah, you said it.
And-
Yeah,
Yes,
you
yeah,
said
you
it.
did.
I
Yeah.
mentioned this, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I guess have they released? They haven't made it. Anyway, whatever. I watched that. We have also finally been watching The Penguin, and we're having fun. It's fun. Yeah,
Fun.
I'm
Yeah.
enjoying it.
Dude, the last episode is worth it. It is worth it.
It's worth the
No,
10 hours
it's all,
for sure.
It's all good. It's all worth it. The last one we watched was when everything went wrong, and at the end of the episode, he finds his lair. He finds like his,
Right.
the
Mhm.
tunnel that he goes
Yep,
back to.
Yep.
That was a great episode.
No, there's
This is my only
there's a point
criticism.
in this show
I think
where you
sometimes,
can see him snap. It's amazing.
which is great. I mean,
What's your criticism?
he's the reason I'm watching it for sure. Like everyone's good, she's great, but it is fun watching what he's doing with that character. The only thing that is consistently making me aware of the show is I feel like some of the music cues are really trying to like subvert like the genre, the pop music needle drops, and sometimes they're just kind of annoying to me. I'm like, yeah, I get it. I mean, you're trying to like do something different, and now I'm thinking about why you're doing that. And it's like playing over this sequence, and I
Yeah.
don't know. So that's the only things that sometimes I feel like you're trying to
Hold that thought as you keep going. Yeah.
Sure. It's not always bad. It just makes
Yeah.
me think about it. It's not like I even hate the music. It's usually fun music. Anyway, it's wonderful. They're doing a great job. That show is cool. It's definitely worth watching. I hope everybody gives it a shot. Jeff?
So I mentioned Wicked and Gladiator II. I finished, not Dispatch, Disclaimer.
I'm still
I
on the
love
first
the
episode of
ending.
Disclaimer. I've
I
started
love the
it.
ending. I don't take back what I said last week. I still think the nuance earlier on could have been greater, but I understand obviously why they decided to skimp on the nuance to get to the last 2 episodes. It was really good ending, very powerful ending. I would say the final episode, basically 10 out of 10. I think they really stuck the landing on it. But I still think the whole thing on the series was a Netflix show and not a prestige show. I mean, it was a prestige show, but it was a prestige Netflix show and not whatever. Fuck everybody. It was great.
Is the disclaimer
I
on
think
Apple TV?
yeah. I'm just saying,
Yeah, I
like
don't even know.
Netflix, like bingy.
Are you
It's
saying
like it was like a bingey show. It felt
Was
like a
your
bingey
first
show.
response there to tell me to shut the fuck up?
Yeah, fuck.
Martha?
I'm Nick in this situation, and we rewatched The Hangover because we wanted a comedy after that, and one person in the house has worked with Todd Phillips, and so we decided to watch The Hangover, and that was really fun. And I think that's it. Oh, and the Dancing with the Stars finale was on because one of us is a dancer, and mini gripe, don't you fucking dare not vote somebody off. You want me to vote, and we get votes, and people all around the country vote, and then at the end go, nobody gets voted off, and it's basically like, fuck everybody who
That's a money
voted.
grab.
That's fucking stupid. Go fuck yourself if you don't fucking kick somebody off and ruin their goddamn
Are you
contract.
saying they messed with the
Let
vote?
our votes fucking matter. They
It's the
just
American
said
way, dude.
this is the second time this season that they were like, nobody gets eliminated. And it's like, what the fuck did I run to my phone to vote for? I was yelled at. Did you vote? Did you vote? Did you vote? And then I voted. It didn't matter anyway. Go fuck yourself. Just vote somebody else. Kill somebody. Go ahead. Kill the boy.
Damn.
Jesus Christ.
Dancing with the Stars got extreme.
All right, people, we're going to take a very, very short break, listen to a small snippet of Das Sign, and we're going to tell you what we're talking about from the film year 1950 right after IP. I mean, right after this break. See you in a second. And we're back.
And we're back.
We
I'm not fixing
have
any
decided
clipping this show at all.
We made
yeah.
up.
I'm going to say again,
Yeah, we made
Dave
up.
is
We
the
made up.
audio engineer of this episode. Is this going on your reel, Dave? Is this week going on your reel or what?
This week will definitely go on something.
Guys,
It'll be used
1950.
as evidence in your imminent murders.
Sunset Boulevard came up. We're not going to do it, people. We're talking about All About Eve. All About Eve. Love Betty Davis. Not our first Betty Davis. Go ahead and watch this movie. Go ahead and watch What's the Matter with Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, which we've talked about on the show. We drank on the show, so forgive me for messing up the title. Love Betty Davis on this show. Catered affair. Let's go, fucking Betty Davis. All About Eve. Can't wait. Anything you knuckleheads want to say before we go?
No, this was great.
Yeah,
Watch movies.
We got a YouTube.
watch them all.
See ya.
All right. Peace.